Hey, what's up? I was in New York City when Donald J. Trump won the 2016 presidential election to become the 45th president of the United States of America. And a few days later, I went to the Union Square metro station and people had started doing these post-it notes to write things that they were concerned about. I went there, I'd been following the election, following the ups and downs and things like that. And I heard about this wall, so I decided with a friend, hey, let's just go down and check it out. We're like, yeah, let's check it out. We were both somewhat interested in what was happening. I got there, I got a post-it note for myself, drew this train, and wrote, the Trump train to MAGA land is for everyone. Because from what I saw, I thought that, hey, what Trump is talking about is actually going to be positive for the country. Obviously, a lot of other people didn't agree. A lot of other people in the world didn't agree. There's been this reaction to it. And ever since then, I've been following it to different levels and kind of thinking, what's been going on with this? And I've been thinking about doing this series since that time. And this is the second entry in it where I just read some of those things and try to understand what were these people thinking. Let me try and explain why I posted that and why I still think that coming up to this next election, I think to get Donald Trump's second term in there. So you can check out the intro video where I kind of discuss it a bit more. And I'm just going to be reading a few of these post-it notes in these different videos and giving you my thoughts on it. Trying to keep it to about 10 minutes and getting into the video now. Yeah, so before I get into this, I'm going to read something about contemporary thing that just happened right now. I'll expand on this in a separate video, but it's also a call out to you guys out there or a request. If you guys have actual experiences, whether you're a Trump supporter and you think you've heard something from somebody with Trump derangement syndrome where you think, do you really mean this? Can you really mean this? What are you coming from? Where are you pulling this out from? Or if you're anti-Trump and you think some Trumpster has said something that you're just like, how can you ignore all the negative things Trump said? What is wrong with your mind? Because I think the importance of me doing this, or what I want to gain from this, is to try and understand why would somebody write this? And to remind myself also that people, especially Americans, when talking about politics, they sometimes literally mean figuratively. Like when they say Trump is literally that Austrian leader from World War II. I don't want to say the word because this video might get flagged or not done, and I want people to actually see this. They don't literally mean that. Because what would happen if they literally meant that? How would they live their life? Could they literally mean they think that person is the leader of their country and be on the path to do what he's going to do and still just sit there and go to work every day and occasionally post on social media? No, I think if somebody truly believed that and truly understood who that person was, they would do a lot more in their personal life. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking with that. So let me just read this and I'll expand on this in a separate video, but I just want you guys to think, where do you think this person is coming from? Then I'll get into the reading. Okay, so this was Michael talking to Nicole. Said, Nicole, you see most presidents age horribly while in office. Trump hasn't aged a day because he has no care for this country. He doesn't carry the weight of America. He could barely carry the weight of his stupid hair. That's all he seems to care about. Me, myself, and I. Oh, and his stupid, vapid, self-centered children. Like, I don't get where somebody like this has come from. Where is he pulling this out? Does Trump just have to be a negative person to this person? What's so wrong with caring about your children? Is that a negative thing? He was just listing things that he thinks is horrible about Trump. He's talking about the not aging thing. Why would people age horribly? Like, how is he judging this? What evidence is he saying to say that he hasn't aged? Now, again, this has to be that literally means figuratively. He can't literally mean he's not aged. First of all, he's really old when he gets in there. When you have someone like Barack Obama who's younger than his hair grays. We've already talked about Trump before with the color of his hair. People mock him about this. They're talking about weight of the hair right now. Then other people mock him for having this thin hair that's gooped up. So how is he going to look old? If he already has this orange kind of pallor to his skin, how are you going to tell if he's more pale, if that's what he has on his face at all times? What is his meaning to say that he doesn't carry the weight of America? Now, then the whole thing is like, if Trump lies all the time, then wouldn't that bring some kind of stress? Or does he just think he's a pathological liar so he's not going to actually be stressed out from actually lying all the time? Or does he think other presidents are honest all the time, and why would you be so stressed and aged by just being honest and telling the truth and being upstanding and doing the right thing? What does this person think about politicians? What does he expect from politicians? And that's a thing that I have separate videos talking about this, and I'll just say in general for me as a president, I'm like, okay, this is the basics. You have to be 35 in the United States of America, a citizen. Then you have to win 270 electoral college votes. And that's pretty much it. For me, that's what I think. Those are the base things. Those are the base requirements. When it comes into what do I think the person should do after that, the qualities, I'm like, look, the office of the president, politicians in general, I don't really expect these people to be honest about things. I expect them to say one thing and do the other. I expect them to just be practical in that sense. Politics is about the possible, not exactly the possible and possibly the preferable, because it's just like two choices between things. I already understood that with politics, it's like these people make decisions. You have to be somewhat comfortable with making decisions where you will do this thing, you'll say this thing, and it will directly lead to the death of somebody, or it can affect economies on this huge scale. So I do understand there is those stressors, but for somebody to have the ability to do that, what are the qualifications? Do you think this is a moral person? Do you think this is a just person? Do you think this is a truthful person? Do you literally believe everything the person says? Every time they come out and say, for example, I believe in God. Do you believe every single president actually believes in God? Do you believe every single president actually loves every single person they talk to when they go on tour? And they're like, oh, I love you this, I love this. Anyway, so this is a bit too long of a tangent for this thing. Now let me get into the actual reading. I think with these ones, I might just bring out one thing of current and try to keep it shorter, and then get into the actual reading and kind of focus more on the analysis of what was on the wall. And again, a request to you guys, like, share, and subscribe. If you guys have pictures of this wall, if you have interactions personally with other people, supporters, or people against us around this whole Make America Great Again movement, this political movement that Trump started, and just a greater global scope of it, or if you think you have an equivalent of something in your political theater, in your political neighborhood, let me know. I'll create a sort of email address where you can contact me with it, or just leave stuff in the comment section. Now getting into the analysis of the wall. Okay, so I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do this. I did the first video, I think I went over 2 of them, and now I'm taking screen caps of the area so I can do as many as possible. I might just go one by one by one. Some of them are going to have more discussion, some of them will just be a quick word and a couple of queries, a couple of questions about it. And let's just see how this goes. So, this is the first one. Screw the alt-right. You are loved. Now with this one, again, this goes back to the thing. Does they literally mean love? How would they define love in this situation? I like to keep the words love, hate, sorry, to be very specific things. And then there's LUV, like the heart thing, the emoji, where this has been, it's gotten to a situation where I think it's been, the importance of these words, the depth, it's kind of like calling him literally that Austrian guy. When you just call anyone that Austrian guy, it makes it seem, it cheapens it. It reduces the actual effect of what that kind of evil that's supposed to actually signify. That kind of horrific person is supposed to signify. If everything is literally that, then what's the deal with it? Just like the curse word. I used to remember this thing when I was a kid where it was like, okay, when I was younger, saying the curse word used to be something horrible. And then they started saying that female dog word on television. And I was like, wait, they're saying that? Then they started saying the 4-letter word for feces on television. I was like, well, they're saying that now? And then there was a time where the fornicating under the king's, or fornicating under the consent of the king word was something where you'd say that when someone like killed your mom or something, or just really did something like killed a pet of yours. That's when you'd say that word because it meant that much anger. It meant that much spite. It was a curse word. Curse was really like you're actually cursing somebody. You'd use God's name, call God, call a supernatural being to curse somebody. That's how strong you felt about that. Then it got to the point where you just drop a pencil and you say that word. And I'm like, okay, what's the equivalent of that? So when they say the love thing here, what do they mean by loved here? Do they mean they love these people? Who do they care about these people? Do they know these people? I don't love everyone. I love very few people due to the actions that they do. I think a good enough definition of love is an involuntary feeling you have for a virtuous person if you yourself are virtuous, or the things you consider virtuous, you just find that in somebody else. Now, I don't think most people agree with the same things that I have considered virtuous are virtuous. We can debate about it, but I don't have this love, unconditional love for everyone. I don't have unconditional dislike for everyone, but it's more of an unconditional apathy until I get to know you. Then I can either like you more, I can either dislike you more, then we can go towards love or hate at the extremes of these things. But I have been accused sometimes of being too literal, but this is part of this. I want to analyze these things and kind of do a deep dive into these things because it is important. And why it's important is because right here they go with screw the alt-right. Who are they defining as alt-right? Why is alt-right something you should screw in that sense? How negative is the alt-right? Now, I have been referred to as alt-right by people by just writing stuff, talking about stuff. Then they see me, and then like, oh, you're black, or you're an immigrant, you're not from America, you were born in other places, or you're an artist, you do this and this. You shouldn't believe this. Like they have this construct in their mind that what the alt-right is instead of how do they actually define this. In my experience, problems exist not because of what X is, but because of how we define X. So the way they define the alt-right, the way they define Trump, if love is just something they throw out there, then when they say Trump hates immigrants, what do they actually mean hate? Is it just dislike? Is it just I prefer people I know over other people? Because that's a common thing. I prefer my friends over other people. Doesn't mean I dislike them. I prefer my nephew over other children. Doesn't mean I dislike other children. If somebody told me to pick between giving my nephew something versus giving random kids something, I would pick to give my nephew something. If you could kind of argue to me that there is a benefit that if these other random kids come in and take that resource, my nephew will be denied that resource, then I choose I'm going to keep these kids away from the resource somehow and keep it for my nephew. If you think that comes from a place of hate, then I don't know what we're discussing here. That comes from a place of me preferring and, in this sense, loving my nephew or having some strong care for him because my nephew's still growing up. The kid can eventually start expressing virtue, and I definitely can't love the kid, but that's another discussion for something else. So screw the alt-right. What do you think this person means right now with this? Do they consider someone like Michael Bloomberg, who just who was a Republican, spent a lot of money in the last election, is now running for the spent a lot of money on the Democrats last election cycle, and now is running as a Democrat, and he's spending a lot of money on that. He just got into the Nevada debates that just happened last night, and some of the things I just saw this clip of Senator Bernie Sanders, accusing him of certain things that he said. He said something like with the stop and frisk thing, which is different from what Giuliani had before. Giuliani had a question, stop, and frisk. You question somebody, if they look suspicious, then depending on how they answer those questions, then you stop them, or stop, question, and frisk. You would stop somebody, then you question them, and depending on how they answer that question, you would then frisk them. And then it was something like 50% of the people that was stopped, questioned, and frisked were found to be either committing a crime, to have some kind of weapon on them, or in the process of it, or just had it, or have some kind of case. Then Bloomberg came in after and dropped the question, and it was more stop and frisk. And with his case, I think it was 1 in 6 of the people, a lot more people were actually stopped and frisked. And in that case, it was 1 in 6 that were actually caught and to be found to be in some kind of breach of the law, whatever you want to argue if the law was right or not. But anyway, they had some things, and he was talking about, there's a quote of him saying something like, oh, I think we're stopping too many white people proportionally compared to the minorities or the black people. He was saying certain things. He spent money on, right? He's like, I don't want to raise the minimum wage. And I was thinking, those were alt-right talking points. At least that's what I had heard being called as alt-right talking points. So this person who posted this currently thinks someone like Michael Bloomberg is alt-right. Or would that person support Michael Bloomberg? So anyway, that's it for this post. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these around 10 minutes, so it's going to be between 10 and 15 minutes at most. And I'll try to streamline this thing so I can get as many of these done and just keep popping them out occasionally. So come back to this space, like, share, subscribe most definitely, and then you will get notifications of these ones and the next ones come out. And I'll also have the contact below for you guys to share your actual experiences with this thing. Okay, goodbye. Also, let me know what you think about this. Let me know where you think this person was coming from, where their mind space was.